Hello everybody, my name is Chris. I am the artist for Thieves of Eden, where you can find at thievesofeden.com, and today I am going to do part one of just a brief cartooning tutorial, just to show sort of my methods and process, if you can call them that. Today we're going to be working on what is called the reality whole, which is based on the concepts of Robert Simon Siegel, who is the author of Thieves of Eden. The graphic novel is available online at thievesofeden.com. So today, our concept for the reality whole, which is essentially a spin-off, is a socio-political commentary, just rooted more or less about fun things like corruption and honesty and integrity, and things generally lacking in global leadership. And with that, I will try to begin. So in this sketch, we're going to have two figures, and they're just going to be interacting based on the notes and script provided by Robert Siegel. So what I like to do first is just sort of block in my negative space versus positive space, just sort of try to get a feel for how everything is going to fit. And for anybody who is just sort of new at cartooning or new at drawing, or is just a really accomplished artist, there's a lot of details and nuance in cartooning that just one little thing wrong in the beginning just sort of compounds all the way to the end. And one of the biggest mistakes is in design. It's a mistake I make constantly. So what I like to do, just for safety and sanity, is just begin to gently block in the main characters, or the mains. And I just do, wiring and gestural lines, as a lot of people who've done figure studies would recognize. And just begin to slowly get everyone into where they're going to live ultimately in this picture. Always in mind keeping that, you have captions, and it's all very, very critical to get it all blocked in at the beginning, because there's nothing worse than doing some working really hard on some beautiful artwork, and then going in to put in your copy and realizing that you blew it. It can, and sometimes does, happen just like that. So what we've got here roughly are two figures. One is going to be a robed, hooded figure here. The other one is going to be a sharply dressed sort of mover and shaker type, and he is placing his hand onto a solemn book, and he's taking a vow, he's taking an oath. And it is based, more or less, it's a commentary about integrity, honesty, and truth. So as you can see here, I've just got my little more than a gestural drawing here, and I'm ready to start blocking in the basic shapes of the bodies, the solid forms in the torso and the arms and the legs. Again, just to make sure you can see the legs here are a little short, so this is at a point now where you can do your adjustments, and you can see I've made reservations for the title, dialogue, and even some captions at the bottom. This is sort of I'm gesturing out the costume. Just this long, sort of flowing, imposing robe, blocking in the ridiculously volumed book. And maybe a nice altar. And over here we can put some candles, just sort of frame everything. Tie it all together. This would be the major mass of the hips, the pelvis. So this would represent the chest, pelvis, legs, and of course most of this is going to be covered, but I just like to be grounded in, just a basic cartoon anatomy. And just something as basic as that. I know it can be much more elaborate, but for me, I just like doing these graduated happy faces just to get stuff blocked in, just to get a direction. And that's as far as I'll take that one before I start to get into detail. But again, you could plan and map this out as far as, you could take that as this process as far as you wanted to the extent of putting in all your cylinders, and the circle for the knee, the large masses of the quadriceps, knee, calves, shins, and you could, essentially do a very, very classical comic style or graphic art style based on that. But I'm going with something gestural, so I like to leave my lines loose and flowing and just sort of fun. Shut up and draw now. It's the bilateral line going down the sternum to the belly button into the groin area, and again rib cage, and that's that small, deceptively small area between the ribs and the pelvis. A lot of people will draw this huge line down here thinking the pelvis is way down here, but if you feel your body, it's actually very close, and if you bend to one side, that gap actually closes. It's just one of those weird things that takes you forever to figure out. Save you some time. And I like to, I like to take it, I like to do 3/4 views, and just it makes the space more interesting to me. It keeps me from getting complacent. It's a little more challenging, but it also shows more of the figure, more of the costume, so that you have more opportunity to be expressive. And just add small jokes and commentaries about the character and the situation and what it is you're talking about. And here, as rough as that looks, everything is essentially mapped out. And this I'm going to do digitally. And all of the caption I would do digitally, but I've made provisions to know exactly where that's going to go. And that's it. So I have all of the elements of what is ultimately going to be this finished comic book cover for campaign number 2. And I'd like to take this opportunity real quick and read it to you, because it's funny. Campaign number 2 is campaign finance, news, double speak. Mandatory lying quotas for politicians. That's the campaign. Fact-checking and even honoring the truth have become antiquated for too many quote-unquote news programs, politicians, and government spokespeople. This campaign restores accountability half the time, a modest goal. And that's what we're going to capture here. And we have script and dialogue going into here, and it all gets wrapped up into a nice tight package. So, the blurb, the reality hole. If we can succeed in making politicians lie only 50% of the time, then we, the people, have a 50-50 chance of guessing when they are actually speaking the truth.